Did the world just turn its back on Burkina Faso? Ibrahim Traoré claims the silence of global powers and the betrayal by so-called allies played a role in the chaos. But who's really funding this unrest, and why are weapons ending up in the hands of Burkina Faso's enemies? Stay to uncover the forces shaping this deadly game. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video. Why are weapons ending up in the hands of those wreaking havoc in Burkina Faso? This is a question Ibrahim Traoré does not believe remains unanswered, as his accusations point directly at foreign powers. These claims, articulated with sharp clarity in his speech, strike at the heart of a deep betrayal, not just of Burkina Faso, but of Africa as a whole. He accuses unnamed international actors of hiding behind a performance of protecting democracy while secretly fueling violence. In his words, to those who sit in air-conditioned offices in faraway capitals, pretending to be defenders of democracy, while funding the very chaos that has slaughtered our people, I see you. These remarks expose what he suggests is a calculated hypocrisy, where high-minded rhetoric masks darker motives, maintaining influence over the region. Traoré's charges echo a long-standing reality in other parts of Africa. In Mali, for instance, arms intended for anti-terror operations consistently fell into the hands of insurgents, forcing many to question whether negligence or intent was at play. Similarly, reports from South Sudan document instances where external players funneled arms into opposing sides of a civil conflict, prolonging unrest under the guise of helping stabilize the nation. Traoré's assertion that terror is being used as a tool of geopolitics seems less like a wild claim and more like a pattern repeating itself across the region. The evidence he highlights paints a grim picture. You arm bandits and call them rebels. You sow division and call it diplomacy. You pillage our resources and call it aid. These claims place a spotlight on the external manipulation of resource-rich states like Burkina Faso, where political instability provides profitable opportunities for certain actors. The country sits atop vast reserves of gold, and as history shows, wealth of this scale often draws interest from those far beyond its borders. While Traoré doesn't name specific states, his message conveys a bold condemnation of those manipulating the violence for economic or geopolitical leverage. Efforts cloaked as aid or development programs often turn out to hold conditions that keep African nations dependent. His words, "We are not your charity case. We are not your client state," lash out at these veiled forms of control, accusing them of inhibiting true sovereignty. But beyond the direct suspects in this crisis, Traoré takes aim at those whose inaction speaks volumes. In his speech, he delivers a scathing critique of the global silence surrounding the suffering of his people. "For years we buried our dead quietly," he says, emphasizing the betrayals hidden beneath sympathies. The hands that we reached out for were the same hands dealing weapons to our enemies behind closed doors. This silence, according to Traoré, implicates world powers who either benefit from Burkina Faso's instability or fear losing dominance over Africa's natural wealth, should the region achieve genuine independence. The most striking part of his argument reframes the chaos in Burkina Faso, suggesting it is not merely an unfortunate byproduct of external interference. He sees it as deliberate, a tool to undermine sovereignty and keep the nation fractured. His words, "This is a declaration not of war, but of purpose," present Burkina Faso as a rising force willing to fight for its identity. A stark warning follows: if you are found conspiring with our enemies, whether you wear a suit or a turban, whether you sit in a boardroom or crouch in the desert, you will be treated as a traitor. This statement cuts across conventional diplomatic norms, symbolizing Burkina Faso's rejection of being defined or controlled by outside forces. Traoré's speech does more than articulate frustration. It signals a pivot from victimhood to defiance, reframing Burkina Faso's suffering as part of a broader resistance against neo-colonial control. His accusations against terror tactics, resource exploitation, and disguised foreign aid strip away polite narratives to expose what he believes is a calculated strategy against African unity. This sets the stage for renewed solidarity, not just among Burkinabe, but across nations facing similar struggles, laying the groundwork for what some are calling a turning point in Africa's fight for self-determination. The enemy's strategy was as old as it was insidious: exploit fault lines, deepen divisions, and fracture the unity of a nation. For Burkina Faso, tribal affiliations and internal differences were meant to serve as tools of disintegration, weakening the national resolve and opening the door to external control. But as Ibrahim Traoré made clear, this plan has not only failed, it has backfired spectacularly. They thought tribal lines would divide us, but what they don't understand is that we have already buried the seeds of unity, and now those seeds are rising as trees of fire, he declared. Far from dividing the nation, the conflict has led to an unshakable sense of togetherness, forged in sacrifice and shared pain. At the heart of this unity lies the blood of fallen heroes, soldiers and civilians alike, who gave their lives in defense of the country. Traoré pointed to their sacrifices not as a loss, but as the foundation of a new national solidarity. Because of their sacrifice, the blood of Burkina Faso has turned into fire, and that fire will consume the enemies of our freedom, he said. These are not just words. They reflect a profound shift in how the Burkinabe people see themselves and each other. The chaos that was meant to tear communities apart has instead become a rallying point, uniting people across regions and identities with an unbreakable resolve to protect their homeland. Nowhere is this resilience more visible than in the villages of the north, where violence has hit hardest. These communities, living under constant threat, have refused to surrender to fear. Their courage has inspired not just the nation, but also Traoré's government, which has vowed to support them with resources and action. To every northern village living under the shadow of fear, you are not forgotten, he promised. This commitment comes with tangible steps: soldiers to provide security, doctors to heal the wounded, and engineers to rebuild what has been destroyed. These promises signify more than just aid. They represent a declaration that every corner of Burkina Faso matters, and no one will be left behind. Beyond rebuilding, Traoré envisions transformation. Roads blocked by violence or neglect are being turned into pathways for growth. His plan to improve infrastructure is not simply about filling potholes or laying tarmac. It's about symbolizing progress and stitching the country together through connection. These highways of progress will carry not only goods and people, but also hope and opportunity, creating a visible rejection of the forces that sought to leave the nation divided and impoverished. Each stretch of road repaired, each clinic reopened, stands as a quiet but powerful act of defiance. But this is not just a fight for Burkina Faso. As Traoré emphasized, the nation is part of a larger movement sweeping across the continent. Countries like Mali, Niger, and Guinea have stepped forward in solidarity, standing shoulder to shoulder with Burkina Faso. Mali hears us, Niger walks with us, Guinea stands beside us, Traoré stated. These alliances mark a collective rejection of neo-colonial control and a new chapter in African unity. The combined efforts of these nations send a clear message to external powers. The time of exploiting Africa's divisions for profit is ending. Together, they represent a growing tide of resistance, a foundation for what many see as the African Renaissance. Traoré's metaphor of trees of fire captures what this moment means for Burkina Faso and Africa. We have already buried the seeds of unity, and now those seeds are rising as trees of fire, he said. These trees represent more than just resilience. They are a testament to the transformation of pain into purpose, of division into strength. It is from this shared struggle that a new era of resistance has emerged, one defined by freedom and sovereignty. And behind this powerful image of unity lies a new hope for the future. One where no external force can fracture what has grown together. For Ibrahim Traoré, the future of Burkina Faso is not written in boardrooms or dictated by foreign capitals. It is built by the hands of its youth. His rallying cry to young people is more than a call to arms. It is a call to action in every corner of society. You are the answer to this crisis, he told them directly, emphasizing their central role in shaping the nation's next chapter. Traoré's vision places the youth at the heart of a movement to rebuild not just infrastructure, but trust, pride, and sovereignty. What makes his appeal so striking is the urgency behind it. Traoré recognizes, and has publicly stated, that a united and conscious youth has always been the greatest fear of Africa's adversaries. Those who profit from division and chaos view this generation's courage and determination as a direct threat. The enemies of Africa have always feared one thing: a united, conscious, and courageous youth, he declared. Today that fear is no longer abstract, it is reality. The rising potential of Burkina Faso's young people is not only shaking the foundations of external powers, but also dismantling the narratives used to control them. Unity among the youth represents the kind of strength no weapon or political scheme can overcome. This unity, however, is not limited to the battlefield. Across Burkina Faso, young people are stepping up as soldiers, yes, but also as engineers, teachers, and healthcare workers. In makeshift classrooms, young educators tirelessly teach displaced children. In rural clinics, young doctors and nurses work around the clock to keep vulnerable communities alive. Then there are the engineers, transforming rubble into schools and hospitals, using whatever resources they can find to provide hope amid despair. These stories are not romanticized tales of heroism. They are daily acts of survival and resistance from a generation determined to change direction. Despite overwhelming odds, they embrace their role with determination, defying the forces committed to seeing them fail. Traore's emphasis on tools, books, and rifles captures the full scope of his vision. Each has its place in the fight he describes. Pick up tools, he urges, calling for practical skills that can rebuild homes and cities destroyed by conflict. Pick up books, he adds, driving home the importance of empowering minds to think critically and create solutions for the future. And pick up rifles, he says, acknowledging the necessity of physical defense against those seeking to destroy it all. This balanced message resonates deeply, reflecting the layered challenges Burkina Faso faces, not just physical security, but economic independence, education, and cultural renewal. Other African nations mirror this drive for youth empowerment. In Senegal, grassroots networks led by young activists have tackled unemployment and improved literacy rates in vulnerable areas. In Mali and Niger, youth-led projects are advancing local agriculture to counter the food insecurity worsened by instability. These parallel efforts underscore a larger movement across Africa, where young people are breaking cycles of dependency and creating new foundations for sovereignty. Traore's call to action echoes this wider push, building solidarity not just within his borders, but across the continent itself. Yet, for all their achievements, an undeniable driving force behind the youth's efforts is the memory of those who came before them. Traore has called on this generation not to mourn the fallen with statues or hollow words, but to honor them through action. Every drop of blood spilled in Lorem, he said, must become the ink with which we write our freedom. This image, vivid and unflinching, transforms grief into motivation. The sacrifices made by everyday men and women do not end with their deaths. Instead, they inspire new generations to rise and act boldly, unshaken by betrayal or fear. For Traore, the youth are more than participants in the nation's recovery. They are the architects of a legacy. His message is clear. They have the power to redefine Burkina Faso, to write a new narrative where sovereignty and freedom dominate the pages of history. This isn't just about surviving today's crisis, but ensuring that the nation becomes too strong to be invaded again. The youth of Burkina Faso, through their resilience and collective determination, are already writing those first chapters. And in doing so, they force the world to take notice. The blood of Burkina Faso's heroes is not merely a sacrifice. It has become the foundation for unity, defiance, and a vision of sovereignty. Ibrahim Traore's words, "We are not finished, we have only just begun," echo the resolve of a nation rising from betrayal. Where enemies sought division, Burkina Faso has formed a bond strengthened by fire. The world now faces a question. Will it ignore this tide of African sovereignty or confront its role in the chaos? For Burkina Faso, the path forward is clear. From the ashes of conflict, a storm of truth and justice has taken shape.